All right. Well, welcome back to Top Tier Career Entrepreneur. This is your host, Chad Broshears, and I'm with Joe. Joe, I'm always going to mess up your last name, and we've been
DiPaola.
friends for a
That's
long.
fine.
DiPaola. We've been friends for a long time, and I always I say it wrong all the fucking time. Sorry about the language there, but anyway. So the nature and the purpose of this channel and these particular videos moving forward are this: I'm a huge supporter, and I'm a diehard for the middle class and or the American dream is really what it is. You know, the American dream is simple. It's this: it's like everybody wants to come to America to have their own. That's actually entrepreneurs, right? Like in my world, that's the people that want that middle class, the one that works their own business, develop it, run it, make money, you know, and help support the economy and help support the local people as well. So it's a big thing for me, and through entrepreneurship, we can create a lot and accomplish a lot. So I've got a friend of mine as well as a business that I respect, which is MR Renovations. And Joe is going to go through a few things for you and tell you a little bit more about his history of humble beginnings and how his business works. And then we'll kind of talk our way through, you know, some lessons that, you know, early entrepreneurs miss, you know, or they get started and they don't know how to get their ideas out of their head, and they'll ultimately take it to the graveyard if they don't. So, so Joe, if you don't mind, we'll just talk a little bit about the company, you know, how it started, what do you guys do, you know, how well is business working, you know, and there'll be some other things we'll talk about. We'll kind of break those down. So,
Yeah. My name is Joe DiPaola. I am the co-owner of MR Renovations. We are a home renovation or home remodeling company within the Pinellas County, Florida area. The company really got its start about 6 years ago. My father owns a bunch of rentals, and so this wasn't really supposed to be a profitable thing. This was fun for him, and to also maintain his rentals as well. And then it pretty quickly kind of just blossomed into a business. Word of mouth turned into doing jobs for friends, turned into doing jobs for their neighbors, etc. And it's pretty much been word of mouth ever since, except for the last year where I really came in and started trying to, like, you know, turn things digital for the company and, you know, make advertising easier for us and not much of a chase for work as it is as work is coming to us like it is now. So I've been on full time with the company just over a year. Really started hammering home a lot of our marketing, using a lot of my previous sales and customer service skills to gain more business for us and build more relationships for us and stuff like that. So it's going pretty good. Can't complain. We're busy. And that's never a bad thing in this industry, that's for sure.
yeah, it's true. You know, and it's, for me, how, like, I took a little venture myself in my early 20s as a handyman with one of my childhood friends, who's also very a worker, you know, so he and I were working in the power industry at the time, so we were working night shift. We were making great money for the age, but we were ambitious enough. We wanted to develop a company to make it work, and the company was called Men at Work. You know, surprisingly enough, it was a name that was available. So we went ahead and set it all up, you know, went to Sunbiz, got all that stuff done, and then we learned some hard lessons. And some of those hard lessons for us getting started was, first we had the idea, hey, we can make this a business. And then we said, okay, well, I know how to work with my hands. He knows how to work with his hands, and we work from there. And then we're like, okay, well, you know, what can we do? So I got pressure washers. We took on a couple of jobs. We didn't really know how to price. We didn't know necessarily how to charge fully. Like, when do you charge in this particular industry? Nearly no one just says, hey, you can pay me after the job's done. It's, you know, you have a process in order to get there. So we didn't know that stuff. And we ended up, we had the business for a little while. It ended up being a lose, and the business became a loss, but we learned a lot. So it was like going to college for business and getting, you know, your face rubbed in the mud there. And it was an interesting experience overall, but we ultimately decided to stop it because it really wasn't profitable, and we didn't know enough to really make it profitable. And we made more money working nights, and we were sacrificing our sleep. So we just didn't see that as a venture to go down. Had I had somebody like I am now, I would have been like, hey, this is what you need to do. Take a step back a little bit, get your rest and recover. But these are the strategies. You need to put strategy in, not just do stuff and figure it out. So,
Right.
Um, so you guys started off, you had some rental houses, and then this became something that was born out of need, right? It was kind of
Yep.
almost accidental.
100% accidental. Especially at first when my father started actually doing the business aspect of it and trying to make it more profitable, he enjoys doing this and being in this industry. So for him, it was fun. Like he was like, oh man, like I can't wait to do another project. And so the way that we price, just going back to the whole pricing thing and underpricing jobs, that was a struggle for him. That was one of the struggles for him at first was, he was kind of just doing it to pay the guys and pay back himself and not necessarily grow, scale the business, put money, gain, become profitable, put money right back into the business and scale it up. So it was that's definitely one thing that I noticed, especially after I came on, is he was doing a lot of things and like giving people really, really good prices, which is awesome in the consumer eyes. But as somebody that wants to grow the business, that can hinder you. And so we've kind of worked those things out, and we're a bit more profitable now. So.
Oh, that's excellent. So yeah, it is interesting how like you have to learn how to best do these things, right?
Yeah.
And this is the problem again with entrepreneurs, especially whenever it's an idea they want to get out or they're trying stuff. They really don't know what they're getting into, and it's to me, I've always noticed that it's how emotionally attached are they to some sort of outcome, right? That outcome could be just pay their bills. It could be they want to be the next, largest, Halliburton or something, right?
Right.
They just, or there was another one out there like Dino or something like that. But they want to be this massive company, or they just want to make enough money to retire for the rest of their life. They have different ideas, and then the emotional attachment is out there, and their day-to-day needs and the hardships they're going to run into may beat them down enough to walk away because they never addressed the challenges they were really dealing with, or they didn't know how to address the challenges they were about to deal with, which was, like if you've got somebody that is a client and you did work for X person, and they decide that they don't want to pay you, which I know happens, often in the industry. You've recently had a situation like that occur?
Yeah, and so we're usually courteous about it. I mean, we get it. Life happens. We don't always jump to the conclusion of like, you're just trying to avoid paying us. So if we're having a hard time getting a hold of a customer and they're still a remaining balance, usually I'll send them an email, I'll make a call, I'll send them a text. If I'm still not getting responses, I don't want to have to do it because it really does harm the homeowner. But worst case, we just go and file a mechanics lien if it all comes down to it. So yeah, I mean, we had a situation recently where we're doing a deck job and we were working on some extras portion of the deck job. It was completely separate from the original job. And so she hadn't paid us for it yet because we didn't require it yet. And then we got about 50% of the way done. And she wanted to pay us after everything was done. Now, in a perfect world, that's good, great, grand, and not a problem. But I'd rather not take my chances on not getting paid. And she ended up giving it to us. We just kind of explained to her, listen, we've done, X amount of work. We've gone above and beyond for you, and both the first job and this job, we are going to need at least, $4,000 payment of that, just so we can kind of pay ourselves back, pay for labor, materials, stuff like that, just so we're not constantly blowing up our credit accounts for our suppliers.
Yeah. What's interesting in that, what I'm also hearing is how you did your customer service, right? So my mind's going to go to the fundamentals, the foundation. And the foundation of all of this really is the traits that you are, right?
Yeah.
So I know that your father started it because of a need that he had with his rentals. You're a part of it now, and you're doing this full time, and pretty much you're scheduled to or soon to be appointed as the main owner of the company, right? As your father phases himself out. There are things about you that I know you personally on, but also getting to know more about your business, and the traits that make you on a personal level are supportive on the business side of things. And from what I'm hearing from what you just talked about was you had these, there was a challenge, right? And you could have easily jumped the gun and hurt the relationship because of coming at the person in a way that would be, you owe me money, pay me, right? Versus let's talk about this. Let's do customer service side of it and get this to be a communication instead of an assault, right? Or attack. So every entrepreneur is going to come with the traits they already have developed in their life. And not all of them will realize what they've developed in their personal life transitions into or translates into their professional life. Mm-hmm. I know you have had a previous, one of the jobs you had when I first met you was you were working for sales, as a sales position. And I know that with business is a multi-dynamic set of skills necessary to be successful. Yeah. And if you learn how to distill it down or to itemize or categorize the skill traits required to be successful, then you can start developing those areas or hire to get people with those skills in that area to help the business continue and grow. So you have sales and you have customer service. You were actually pretty good at sales too, from what we've talked about.
Yeah.
We're one of the higher end achievers in the company you worked with. Obviously, that's going to work, right? Because in sales, you have to understand customer service in order to support the stuff. This is a great example where this woman wasn't paying, right? Mm-hmm. And then you had the customer service her into paying instead of liens and challenges against her and her credit or whatever. Judgments in court, whatever it is, because those are all recourses that people that are entrepreneurs should know they have those recourses. You have that as an option. It's just a matter of what does it take in order to get that working for you, right?
Right. So, my mindset behind dealing with issues like that is retention, not retain, not relinquish. So I would rather work with a customer, take the time, really just kind of get an idea of, okay, why they're not paying. Is it something we did? Or is it something that they did, or is it a combination of the two, and maybe they're just not feeling comfortable? There's no sense in harming the relationship, because not only does a mechanics lien harm the homeowner, that homeowner is going to turn around. They're probably going to leave you a bad review. They're going to badmouth you to everybody they come in contact with. Word of mouth being one of the biggest ways of advertisement. It's going to be all their neighbors are the first to hear it. And so it's a lose for them, but it's also a lose for you. I mean, the idea is to have a good reputation. And if you're, right off the gun, just like, oh, you didn't pay me, boom, like there goes your house. You're not really it almost seems like you're a sketchy company, not that the customer was being sketchy on not paying you. It makes it almost seem like, why not just take the extra time to just figure it out? Because at the end of the day, that's all it really takes. And we ended up getting paid, no problem. And the customer's more than happy. It was just a misunderstanding, and it just required a little bit of communication, and we retained the customer.
Wow. Yeah. That to me is a significant value, right? Mm-hmm. To be able to, one, hold your patience. The more trained and developed you are in that, and specifically customer service, interpersonal dialogue and communication, the ability to communicate, all of that gives you the ability to maintain and not go to the temperament issues where you lose your cool or you say something you shouldn't say or you take actions that can harm the reputation not only with the person that's involved directly, but also could hurt your reputation and your employees have with you, the friends and the network that's on the other side of the party that's delinquent. There's a lot there that you have to be cool-headed about so that you can come out in a better place.
Yeah.
There are people out there that'll scam you and then still hit your reputation just because they're just that kind of person.
Yeah.
They're parasites and they're parasitic in the way that they behave. But it's out there. If you were a new business owner, so you guys have been around for 5 to going on 6 years, roughly, somewhere around the area, profitable pretty quickly because you supported it in-house with the properties that you guys have for rentals, and how to manage and develop a company inside of that, which is fantastic. It really wasn't for profit initially. It was just to support the rentals.
Yeah.
Built your structure necessary, and then it was like, hey, it's a no-brainer. Why not bring people from outside of our rentals into, now they could be clients of ours, and then make it a business that is a for-profit business versus a supporting business for the other business, which is the for-profit for rentals. So, or the profitable direction of rentals is what I mean. So taking it out of that sphere. Now, it's you and your dad are the co-owners, right? Your dad's majority. Right. You're going to end up taking over that role. I know you guys have obviously had some struggles along the way. Everyone does. It's just sometimes those struggles are, again, as I mentioned earlier, you have your emotional set point out here, like become the next, I want to compete with Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk wealth, So that's a big piece of emotion that has a lot attached to it, right?
Right.
Power, influence, validation of existence, ability to buy whatever experience, whatever you want to experience is pretty high at that point.
Right.
So that big emotional anchor is out there, but then they have the first person that doesn't give them a call back, or they've got the person that they got the job, they've got all the materials, and then that person has to now go and assess another potential job, and the person that they hired to bring in to do the work doesn't show up. And it's like, okay, well, I'm doing all of this and I can't even get people to follow through. And then the emotional ball that can eventually grow into the boulder turns into the thing that crushes them, right?
Right.
Because they're attached to that. I'm going to make all this money, and then their relationships with people start to change because they're too attached to the money side of that in that example, right?
Right.
Versus the focus on do quality work. Right?
Yep.
Do the kind of work that makes the difference, that has people talk about you to reduce the cost of advertising. Some
Right.
people in the beginning, they don't have a penny to advertise. They can go on Facebook, they can go on their free medias in
Yep.
order to advertise, but it has limited reach. But with that, I would suggest, and I'm sure you'd agree with this, is if you did that, wouldn't you want to be able to say, okay, you've made $100, now you need to put 20 of that for advertising, or set 20 of that aside for something else.
Yeah.
For the business, so you're buying more for your business by buying advertising is buying for business. Making sure you get more tools, to have it, basically creating budgets.
Yeah.
You don't bid the job based off the budget that you want to make off of it. You bid the job based off a formula that proves that you're not scamming people and screwing people over, right? Because that's unfortunately the nature of it. Most people think they're being, screwed over.
Right.
Car buying, like leaving the car lot, you got the thing you really like, but then you ask yourself, did I just get taken? Did I get screwed over? So there's always those things, and the reputation in renovations or in the construction world, you guys are more for renovations than new builds, although you can do new build. That's more of your areas, your general, but in the renovation side.
Right.
So what kind of advice would you give somebody that's just now starting, that if they get desperate? So what, actually, I'm sorry, what my question is that budgets are important, right?
Right.
How would you support a new entrepreneur? You're not giving them money, you're giving them something better, and that is, how do they really get started? Now, of course, you get started in a multitude of ways. First, the idea, but you need to start setting budgets in as soon as you possibly can. When would you suggest that they sit down and start formulating budgets for their company, including paying themselves, things like that?
Well, immediately. I mean, so at the end of the day, it's a numbers game. Like, nobody is in business to not make money. So I think first and foremost would be figure out what your niche is. If you're going to be in a niche industry, figure out your budget, and then stop thinking about it and start doing it. Like, just jump into it. If you've got your budget figured out, that you can lay tile, or you can build a kitchen, go with that. And then, so if you have $100, take 20, take 50 even of that, so long as your finances can support you and you can, still pay your bills, and put that into advertising. Even just going on Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, whatever, it's free to post. You can post all you want. When I had a mobile detailing business, I never paid for advertising, and I was booked out for 6 months by posting who needs their car detailed. Like, that was huge. I'd have 300-400 people hit me up in less than an hour. So start with the small stuff. If you can't afford it, just advertise however you can. Talk about your business. Go to Chamber of Commerce. Go to networking events. Tell your friends, tell your family, and tell them to tell people. And you might only get 1 or 2 jobs, but from 1 or 2 jobs, you can get 10 very easily. Word of mouth, man.
Yeah, word of mouth is huge, and it's a method of advertising, but it's a non-paid method. It's a quality of work method. That is, you do a good job, people like you, like with you personally, like you've got a great personality, you're easy to talk to, you're engaging, you're sincere, and you're detail oriented. That gives a pride of product
Right.
because of the detail orientation that you have. And this is speaking about you on the personal level because we know each other, we're
Right.
friends. But on the business side, it's not going to change, right? You're too genuine for that. So
Right.
the quality traits necessary, budgeting is going to be a big part of making your business successful. But being able to go through and say, hey, you know what? Let's itemize budgets. Let's do this. Okay, well, here's my cell phone that's built into my cost of operating. Here's my pay myself built into the cost of operating. Here's the material costs that are necessary to do this particular job.
Mm-hmm.
Here's going to be, if you have other people involved, so payroll, how much is that going to need to be? You'll have your rainy day. Put something away so that just in case something happens, somebody stiffs you in a job, or you just get lean for whatever reason for a little while because something's not hitting or the economy shifts around or something. And then you've got your advertising money on top of it so that you've got the next. And, I'm sure there's a few other things that we can put in there, buying new equipment, training and developing, onboarding new employees is still going to be a cost, even if it's your time, but that time is being intruded upon from doing something else. So, but it's an investment, so therefore it's a cost value. But you can put time value for how long is expected to train and develop a new employee. But coming up with a full-blown, hey, this is a very detailed, because both of us are detail-oriented people, very detailed budget structure to make your business move, right? So that you don't go, I don't know, I just got paid and I got this money in my account. Let me go buy the top-end tool, right? Let me go buy a brand new tool. Let me go, I needed to make my car payment. Okay, I made my car payment. Let me make my second one so I don't have to worry about that next month. Not necessarily bad, but it's not playing by a budget guideline. It's just the first thing to mind that says, okay, do this. And then you got all those blind spots that will get you, eventually, right? So overextended and under-established or whatever. So let me do this real quick, too. I need to pull something up here. Now, you are currently, so you do have more than just you and your father and the company working, right?
That is correct, yeah.
Which is great because, again, the American dream, in my opinion, is also us creating the next thing, right? Like being able to create jobs and to open things up for people.
The two of the guys I have working for us right now are great examples of that. They're both immigrants. They're both legal, of course, but they're both immigrants, and they came here with the idea of making money and basically bettering their lives. And so although they're not owning their own business, like, they're helping me, which in turn allows me to, and affords me to be able to help them and, get them what they need and basically give them the life that they moved here for, essentially. So
yeah, that is the dream. My opinion also is you get a lot of work ethic out of a lot of people that are the first generation Americans or that have just came here legally, and they just have this significant work ethic where a lot of multi-generations Americans have a habit of just going, yeah, I'm entitled or I expect. I don't fall in that category. I don't expect anything. I don't feel I'm entitled to a thing. The only thing I'm entitled to is what my hard work produces. And if it's not, I need to understand why, and then it won't happen again. Right? It's just the way that I work. It's always to learn and develop. I'm addicted to learning. I love this stuff. That's why I love talking to business owners. Teach me your business, So you guys, you do floors, you do showers. You're more general. You're not specifically full on niche. So you guys cover a pretty decent array of things, right?
Yeah. So I'm really trying to refine it down to less than what we do now, and there's no like bad reason, that there's no bad situation that caused me wanting to do that. I just don't want to spread ourselves too thin. Like, I want us to be 100%, no matter what, confident in what we're doing and what we're talking about. There's nothing wrong with knowing everything you can know, but if I can know everything I need to know about several things, then I'm going to be the best at that, because I'm going to devote all of my time to it. So right now we'll do kitchens, baths, flooring, all of your typical home renovation stuff. We will get into some framework if that needs it, or decking, building chimneys, stuff like that. But most people, when they look to do their floors or do their kitchen, they're going to type in something very specific on Google. And if I'm listing our business as something that does generalized things, there's a lesser chance that the algorithm, per se, is going to be in our favor to list us more towards the top. So I'm really trying to get us more towards kitchen, bath, floors, nothing too deep into the house, no pun intended there, and into the walls, if you will. Mainly just surface level, superficial stuff that you can just look at and see and know what it is.
Yeah. What also comes to mind is, okay, so bidding jobs, right? That was one of the challenges that I had with my company is I didn't understand how to bid jobs, right? So you'll have bidding a job is easier when you're niche, whenever you really whittle it down, because you'll know everything you need to know. If I need to know everything that's like, one is the big hitters in business and the ones that really have become amazingly successful will tell you don't memorize anything you can look up. Yeah. It's a waste of space and effort. There's other things. You've got way too many resources to look stuff up as soon as you need it. Don't memorize it. Just be familiar. Don't memorize. Familiarize. So if you say, I have 10 things, well, 10 things change. How many times has styles changed? Right? Like with flooring, right? Like flooring was different types of tile were really popular. Well, not every tile gets laid exactly the same, although they get laid similar, but they're not laid the same, right? There's pattern changes. There's all kinds of things to make it look very, not just passable, but artistic. Right? And the better you can focus on those things. So if you just focused on flooring, well, as times change, you're always on top of flooring. You go to Vegas for the flooring convention, whether or not that actually exists, but the point is you can go off and do like some sort of like convention where you can learn everything about the next steps of flooring and how stuff looks and new technologies and application types and, training things, like all kinds of stuff, but you can really narrow it down instead of going to 10. Yeah. Right? Because if you hit one a month, and you have, you get 2 months down, but you're constantly traveling to educate and to be educated for new stuff and the movement forward in all of these different areas of the industry, you're going to find it it's challenging to keep up with.
Right.
Because when are you doing your work then? And then when you're doing your work, you're practicing something new at times, and your quality can go down because it's a new thing. Right? Application, time, how long does it take to deliver the service or the result. There's other things that go into it and why it's beneficial to really come down to something. I get in the beginning, people are just desperate to make money. But if you can prevent desperation by being more prepared by what I want people to get from these videos and these from the show is how do you figure out how to prepare yourself so you have less hardship? Instead of saying, you know what, I got a $100,000 a year job, I've saved up $50,000 and I'm tired of this job. I got $50,000 in a nest egg. I'm going to start a company. But if you don't know what's coming next and you devote 100% of your time, but your traits aren't lined up and you have so much training to develop the traits in order to be successful, that the wetware requirement is higher. And that most people are unaware of the wetware requirement. That's trait values, the stuff that's in your brain, right? How you be about things and the punctuality, stuff like that. As you've noted, one of your successes and noted from previous conversations is punctuality is a big freaking success factor. And
show up on time.
Yes. Do what you say within the time frame you say you're going to do it. Those things are incredibly important because it's your word. But the point, what I'm really wanting to work on there was just the understanding what's necessary to be successful and how do you get it down to the simplistic or at least simpler version. So how do you bid a job? Well, that's not an easy conversation, right?
No.
Because it's easier if I say, Joey, I'm going to build a garage. Now you know that we've got a conversation to have that you can start talking to me about estimates. What is it going to cost me to do it myself? What's it going to cost me to have somebody else do it? The material costs, all of those things. We can narrow it down now. The garage, is there an existing roof or is this a complete new add-on, right? Because then we got foundation where we've got other things. And if it is existing, what's the foundation? Is it going to be capable of structurally holding it? What materials are necessary? How do you test that? There's other things that come in order to understand how you're going to put a price tag to it.
Right.
So knowing that there are the unseen variables, which would be the wetware stuff, trait values, then you have the hard stuff. And the hard stuff is going to be concrete block costs. It's going to be your mortar cost. It's going to be your if you're going to pour a slab, what's the real cost of that? And then what's your add-on? How do you bid it? So that you still make a profit, you can pay all of your people. In the event you have something happen and you got to redo work, You got to have a cushion built into your costs, right?
Right.
Not to total absorption. Let's say the whole thing has to be redone and $50,000, that's out of your pocket. You're going to want to have a little something there to cushion just in case. But even that, insurance and stuff like that, right? You may have insurance.
100%. Yeah.
So that's what I like that, and to be able to give people some clarity, and I do have a plan to put out material to be supportive for the trait values so that people can start going through the breakdowns of what an entrepreneur's starting point should be with these traits and how do those traits work in this particular environment. So put together something, and I'm learning from you guys how to develop the right trait concepts to help entrepreneurs starting so they actually have a more successful beginning.
Right.
Let's keep these ideas out of the graveyard, but let's get them out of your head too,
Right.
And that's what you and your dad have done, but yours is more by accident in itself versus going, I really like that, let me go do that, and then figure out how to make it work. You guys had kind of an incubator of homes that needed the support from this company. Then you got outside of that and realized that it's a profitable direction.
Right. So with this, I mean, I love doing what I do, of course, but I have severe ADHD, so I can do a billion things at once. So I've also started, or I'm in the process of starting a pressure washing business, just going back to the, need. There's a need for it versus, I want to do that. Pressure washing in this area, in the Pinellas County, Florida area, there is a need for it. But it's also something that I want to do. Like, I find it interesting and cool. And it's something I can also use as an upsell in our current services, as not only can I, rebuild your home, I can also clean and make your new home look great. So we're in the process of doing that, but that's something completely separate.
Yeah, but hey, look, this is what I love about it. Entrepreneurs are always looking. Right? What is it? Well, pressure washing is supportive of renovations, but it's not for renovations. It is a different category. But doesn't mean you can't have that trailer being pulled behind you. It depends on what kind of pressure washing you want to do and those kind of things. There's a lot of variables in it, but it's all worth learning, right? Why not? My thing is, what else are you going to do? If you're an entrepreneur like me or like yourself, we eat ourselves alive when we work for somebody else. I mean, especially if you're working for a corporation, right? Because we're not those people. We can do it, but it just burns us up. Like for me, I've lived in more than 10 years of my adult life just feeling that antsiness, that anxiety that I'm doing something wrong with my life. I'm not doing the right thing. I'm not doing what I'm better suited for. Right. And those are all accumulation of traits and my views and things like that. But so I can appreciate that significantly, and I offered pressure washing with my handyman company. I spent a pretty decent amount of money, on industrial grade pressure washers, big boys, Yeah. And well, let's just say that after I closed the company, I decided to hold on to them. I sold one, and then I had two more stolen from me. Actually, three. I had a small residential one that was just for small spaces and stuff like that that I used for it. And then my two big boys that were, huge. It took nothing to pressure wash something clean without chemical, right? Just water. Like, Jesus Christ, this thing's amazing. But lessons learned. My goal is to try to help people make those lessons impactful long term. And as you have done, you've made great strides. I do see that your specific direction, renovations, is usually going to be homeowners. You guys decided not to do commercial. You really wanted to keep it in the residential sphere.
Yeah, so initially when I came on and we started advertising and getting a lot of jobs, I think everybody with their company, they have this massive picture of what they want it to be. And some of it can be a little ridiculous or overkill, and some of it's very reasonable. So no commercial at all. It's just I just don't want to get into it. Nothing against doing commercial work. There's tons of money in it, but then you're dealing with tons of different bids from other contracting companies, and that's just not a mess I'm trying to really delve into at the moment. I did consider getting into doing like government contract work, so working on like governmental buildings, state, federal, city, things of that nature. That would be something for much further down the line, though, and we're 10 years down the line or so. But it has been a thought. So I guess technically we could get into commercial, but not as our main revenue.
Yeah, I wonder what comes to mind when I think governmental and residential in the same time is like Section 8. So,
Yeah,
and if
like
there's like,
government buildings. Like
yeah,
when the feds need work on their buildings or they need a new building built, they will typically bid it out to contractors and they'll
yeah,
take, whatever they deem as the best bid or best value.
yeah, yeah. I dated a woman that works in the state of Florida that she's way up there. She'll be a bureau chief if she's not already. And she was talking to me about the bidding process and how all that stuff works. And like her job, she's a CPA. She does a lot of auditing, but she's incredibly skilled across the board. One of the most impressive women I've ever met. Is definitely a top 5. And she was going through just how not necessarily corrupt, but it's more like a good old boys network up there. When you get
Yeah.
into the government jobs, a lot of times they just automatically award the company that had it last year just bids it again this year and they automatically get it, but they have to
Yeah.
take in 4 other bids and then settle on whichever one they wanted to go with. So once you get into it, that's going to be a lot of relationship building stuff like that, but that can be significantly beneficial by
It could be
building
huge.
those relationships and get access to it. It's a bit further down the line for entrepreneurs, but I want them to see as they watch these videos as well, you create this stuff, you make these things happen, and this is how it happens, right? You don't have a set destination. Okay, well, I'm going to sail my ship over there, and then that's the end destination. Entrepreneurs don't work that way. We start that way in mindset, until we get there. Then we realize wherever there is, we're not likely ever going to retire. We're not those people. We're always going to be thinking in that world of business and creating something. So getting there means now you're going to another island or another place or whatever in the boat analogy, but you get there and you realize there's more. And there's more places you want to go to. So that's something that I want people to understand from this is that you're in that growth mindset. You're in the what's next. You're good. Now, your guys' break-even is another good conversation, too. Most people don't know. First off, what a break-even is, not to explain it to you, but to some of the audience, is a break-even is where you finally get to the point that your business has made enough money that you're not losing any, but you're not gaining any yet either. You're at the break-even, right? Then you have your above break-even, but break-even is where you finally start talking about what's necessary, like how can you pay yourself.
Right.
Now, for you guys, because you were also in that incubator state for a while, which is good, it's excellent. Actually, there's nothing wrong with it. It's a perfect thing. It came out of need, and the business came out of need from that.
Right.
Your break-even, how long did it take you before you hit break-even?
So if you're not considering doing all the rental work, basically immediately. With labor, a lot of the tools we already had because of doing the work on the rentals and just accruing them over the years. I mean, my dad loves to keep everything. He's got medicine from 1980. So having all those tools already, knowing good contacts for workers was really good because not that we pay our guys very, very well, but you also don't want to overpay them.
Mm-hmm.
We need to take care of ourselves too. So pretty much immediately, to be honest, I mean, maybe 2 jobs, 3 jobs in, and we were broken even profitable.
Wow.
Yeah. So it really works back down to how you bid things.
Yeah.
I would rather overbid, not bid myself out of the market, but I would rather overbid compared to 2 other contractors than underbid, and then I'm in this revolving door of being upside down on jobs. And then, the first couple months is like scrape back up to the top to break even. So pretty much immediately, I would say time-wise, 2 months.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's actually incredibly short. Now, mind you, and for the people watching the video, as you said, you also had already, because of the rental properties and your father's accumulating tools because it's as the need came up, there was a budget there to go get it, right? So all of that's that incubator concept, right? But if I were starting off today and I said, hey, I want to get into this, obviously I'm going to have a limited budget for it. And what is that budget limitation is going to be what I have available, right?
Right.
Where could I start, because I got to get tools, right?
Right.
If you've already worked in the trades, if you know you want to do this, are you working in the trades, or are you just you work in a completely separate industry, and this is what you want to do because of the reward of working with your hands or whatever? If you come from that and you don't have a nest egg, what would you suggest people do? Because some of the first stuff they need to do is they need to have tools. So where would you suggest that they go instead of going and buying brand new off-the-shelf retail? What could be some of the solutions for those people?
Facebook Marketplace, OfferUp, stuff like that, where you can find used, still used but usable, still not beaten to hell, tools. Now it depends. If you're coming from a trade or just generalized, construction, find your niche, like what you're really good at, and then look specifically for those tools and tools associated that you may need on those jobs. As you get into doing those specific jobs and you're profiting and you're able to put money back into the business, then you can kind of build out on your tool inventory there. First things first, I would say go on Facebook Marketplace, go on like your OfferUps or like any buy sell trade kind of app or media site, because you can get Milwaukee tools, DeWalt tools, whatever it is, Boss Stitch at a reasonable price, and still get your job done super efficiently, basically. So start small. Start with what's right in front of you. I mean, friends, family, garage sales, any of that stuff. If you think there might be tools somewhere you can get it cheaper, look, because there's probably a way to get it cheaper.
Yeah. What also comes to mind, so again, it's back to that, what do you have available? And you don't want to be in a position where your desperation is corrupting your reputation.
Right.
Right. And that happens. It can happen. You can make moral choices that are bad because of the fact that you just need to make a few more bucks, or that you need to short a job because you don't have enough money in your account. And so you get lesser quality, or you skip something, right? You tear down drywall, right. You find out the wood behind it, the framing is rotten or needs to be replaced. And you're like, I don't want to bother with it, but you know what? Let me go ahead and I'm going to charge them for it. Whatever. There's just different things that can really ruin your reputation out of desperation, but you not really be a bad person, but right. You just taught yourself a shortcut that actually leaves the person you're doing the job for holding the bag.
Right.
And I mean, sure, there could be legal recourse, but that's not for this so much as it's more of where else can you go, right? So other places that come to mind as far as tools is going to be like, you could go to pawn shops. Sometimes you find good quality with that. Be patient. Don't buy the first thing you see unless you know it's a really good deal. Flea markets, places like that. There are places to go out and to get, tools at a discount, but pros and cons. Buyer beware. Take your time. Don't just say, hey, that thing looks good on the outside. I didn't even plug it in to find out if it works. I just bought it.
Right.
They didn't fire it up, didn't start it, whatever, like you want to make sure you vet whatever you can, because it
right.
really sucks when you get something, you need it for the job, you bought it, you unload it, you get it all set up, you start trying to use it and it doesn't work.
Yeah.
And then it turns out it's from someplace you can't return it. Right?
Yeah, you see a deal for a $40 DeWalt chop saw, you should probably just keep looking.
Yeah. Right. So it's that starting point is so incredibly fragile for a lot of people, because they are going into it. Some people would just say, hey, I got 6 months to make this thing work. It shouldn't be that hard. It's
right.
always what you don't know is what you don't see. And obviously that's what our intention is with this, is to help support those people. Set up for success from the beginning. Don't wait until you're dealing with the challenge and then you've got desperation leading you the wrong way. Right. So now, it is impressive to break even very quickly. But again, that's also a benefit because you guys had that incubator situation.
Yeah.
And that's fantastic, and good on you guys for that. Not everybody will, but if you do have it, fantastic. You could have tools in your own garage to start as well, your own personal stuff. Now, you guys, every business has competition, and your differentiator is going to be something, right? So how many competitors would you say you have in your area?
So technically speaking, every single contracting home renovation company in the area. Okay. However, the biggest issue in the industry right now is people not showing up, taking a massive full amount of the job deposit and not showing up, or using it as filler work and not being punctual and finishing the job in a timely manner. So in reality, nobody is really our competitor because we show up. We're not requiring you to give us all the money up front and then, dipping out on you. We show up. We're there till the job's done. We're not using your job as filler work when we're 3/4 of the way done from it and we got a big $70,000 job down the road. That's just bad business. The biggest thing I see on the Nextdoor app, the local neighborhood app that I use, is people complaining of contractors doing exactly what I just described, screwing them over in one way, shape, form, or another. That's one of my biggest sales tactics when I'm talking to a customer. We've already gone over pricing. We've already met with them for the job, and it's coming down to actually selling them. Usually I'll just say, we're actually going to show up. I'm not just going to show up for 2 weeks and then be gone for a week and a half and then show up for 2 days. I'm here till I'm done. So if that's something that you don't want, then you might want to go and check out a couple other people down the street. But I'm going to be here. I'm going to be punctual. I'm going to make sure it's done. I'm going to make sure it's done correct. And I'm going to make sure, biggest and most important, is that you're happy with the final outcome of the work before you pay me money.
Oh, by the way, that's fantastic. It is. You're also talking about, and you mentioned my next question before I got a chance to ask it, and that's what's your differentiator. So here's what I want to put in for that is, we're in Florida for the people that are not, that don't know where we're at. We're in Florida. It is 2023, and the real estate market here is actually not slowing down. It's stagnated a little bit. It will take off again. I'll have a realtor on here soon as well. It'll take off again, because of the political issues that are in other states, and that's a lot of these are political refugees, if you will, moving to Florida. They're just tired of what's going on in their states. So the prediction that I have for this market is it's going to continue to go up. So with that, you get more realtors, you get more people that are doing, home renovations or trying to flip or whatever it is.
Yep.
And then those people that are flipping also might be renovation companies. Now, I have come across, and a family member of mine has come across a marketplace hire where somebody hired somebody to do something on Marketplace, and all they were doing is they were going in and they were, okay, you want your sink changed out? And they would take the good sink with the faucet and everything else, or at least, not, there may be a problem with it, but they'll be like, oh, I got to take the whole thing. I'm going to put another one in for now. I'll come back and finish it. Turns out the person never came back, and they also left one out of the two sides not even hooked up, straight down to the cabinet bottom. And it wasn't even the right size to fit into the space either. Looking at some of the other jobs that they've done, this is a word of caution. You get what you pay for, and also how do you stand out in this industry is don't be a scumbag, right? That's a big start. The other is, like a roofing job. They're like, oh yeah, we can take care of this. They took the money on the front end, person paid, but it was significantly discounted compared to having a legitimate roofing company come do it.
Right.
And he put a tarp over their roof, put some weights on it, which I don't know exactly what kind of weights he used, may have been block or whatever, or rocks, and then just left it. And no one can contact the person. So word of caution is you get what you pay for. There will be customers out there that will only ever do a bargain. You don't need to be the bargain guy.
That's not my customer.
Absolutely not, right? The differentiator, right? You don't want to be the race to the bottom of pricing, because eventually you'll put yourself out of business.
Right.
But when you're the differentiator, which it means you have something that separates you from others, quality of work, artistic outcome to certain things like tile shower, stuff like that, things that make people go, God damn, that's not only a good job, that's an amazing job. Look at that. That's a great word of mouth help. So your differentiator is quality and punctuality, which surprisingly enough, yes, that is a differentiator when it comes to construction, punctuality.
Right.
Now, your employees, your staff, how many total do you have? You, your father, and then you have a couple of part-timers, or you have 2 full-time and then you have a couple of...
So we've got, that's a good question. So it's my father, myself, 2 full-timers, and then we do a lot of subcontracting types of things, not to other big name companies, just as a complete example, but if we're going to do a roofing job, I wouldn't be like, oh, let me sub this out to Duncan Roofing and put my profit on top. But people that I know that are in the industry, that are GCs, that can pull a permit if need be, that are reliable, that are going to still allow me to, make money where I need to. we will subcontract out to those. Now, those are people that we work with on almost an every single day basis. It's not like a once in a blue moon I'm subbing out to some guy that I met 2 times. So yeah, 2 full times plus my father and I. I try to be hands-on when I can. It really depends. I'm more of a flooring guy. So that's really my specialty. I've worked for several the biggest flooring companies in the nation. And so if it comes to floors, I'm 100% hands-on. I've got to be in it. I love it. I obsess over it. I see it on my dreams. If it comes to windows, man, that's dad all the way. I don't know. I don't know anything too much about windows, but yeah, so I try to be hands-on. He's getting older. He really can't. So if you want to look at it, I guess 3 full-timers, including.
Okay. Yeah, and so how did you get that? Because there's 2 points, 2 things I wanted to go to here. First is to keep it in alignment here is, so with those people, you got to the point you could bring somebody else on. How did you find your employees? How did you vet them to know that they knew their skill sets? How did you get to the point that you were actually able to rely on somebody other than you and your father?
That's a good question. Definitely one thing I would say is you have to have some trust right out of the get-go. Like, this is an industry where, you can show me all the work you've done, but until I see you do it, it's going to be kind of hard to believe it. So I have to come into it just like, all right, it's not the end of the world. If it's not a perfect job, I need to have a little bit of trust. So now in regards to the ways that we got them, my father, he's been in the casino business prior to being in this business, so he's got tons of connections, tons of labor connections, things of that nature. So it was really just kind of making some calls, see who's looking for work, see who does quality work, and then that was it. And we brought them on, and initially what we will have them do is do work on our rental properties. So that way it's not costing us like a $50,000 mistake if they royally mess something up. And then that's kind of like their test, if you will. Like, okay, hey, we need new tile in the rental, in one of the rental properties. Like, this is the tile we're laying. Have at it. And obviously we're not just leaving them to their own, to themselves. Like, if they've got questions, we're there, we're monitoring, watching, seeing like, okay, maybe we can train him on doing this different or this different. So in regards to getting them, basically just phone calls from previous connections or being in the industry long enough to just know and meet people and network. Just got to trust them, man. You have to. At first, you really do. It's hard, don't get me wrong, but if you don't trust them, you're never going to have a worker. So
yeah. Well, and a couple of things there too. When it comes to vetting employees, like, you're going to want to understand like time. How long does it typically take to do this job? What did you bid in for?
Right.
Because that affects also how you bid, is how well you can reliably produce a particular product or whatever they want done overall. So you have people that you'll have, okay, well, if you don't do showers but you do floor, you'll have an idea how long it takes, and you'll know if the person's doing a quality follow-up, check periodically throughout the job, or follow up at the end. The higher your trust in their outcome, the less you need to check on them, but never go hands off, right? You always want to make sure nothing's changed in their life that made them change the quality of their outcome.
Tile's a good example. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah, that's good.
So tile's a really good example of that. I'm going to know if you're able to walk the walk and talk the talk when it comes to laying tile by the time you lay your first tile down on the ground, where your center line is based on the layout of the rooms.
Yeah.
If you're starting in a corner, it's going to be a bit questionable. So yeah, I mean, stuff like that, it's almost instant. You can tell. There are certain other aspects and things that we work on where it may take getting halfway through the job to realize, like, okay, no, he 100% knows what he's doing. He's just approaching it differently. There's a million ways to skin a cat.
Yeah. No, great term. PETA's going to be after us. They're like, that's our job. We skin cats. We just tell you we don't. I'm no fan of PETA. Anyway, initially it was a good company. But anyway, all right, so back to the other part. So as we're talking about like finding jobs and how to get started in this, as well as if you're niched in, you can approach somebody if you can find a general contractor that needs to have a specific labor done or specific job subcontracted, right? Find somebody like you that actually can subcontract work to, and then create a relationship with that person. It's a good way to get started. You know, you don't need to have a whole crap ton of tools. You just need to have what's necessary to do the job. You explain that and show that to the business owner that can, or the person that can subcontract you in. And it's a good way to be able to get jobs along the way so that you can start building your own company. It's a great door, a foot in the door. So the other is you had mentioned some trade stuff.
Yeah.
And what I love about it is, you know, I love how you keep how the trait values continue to show up. Yeah, because that's what I look for. That's the way I am. I'm detail oriented, especially in the psychology world. Is you look for specific aspects that create a character, and then how did that character function inside of the environment they're in.
Right.
So I'm really great with human development too. Or well, human development makes it sound like I'm outside of that, right? I'm not a lizard person or anything like that. If anybody is like conspiracy theory driven, I'm not with Mark Zuckerberg or one of them. So yeah, but the trait values, right? And like I've been that way my whole life, you know, and how to identify these things and to see what success models are. As a consultant, I've had to do this. I've had to go in, find companies that are doing something incredibly well, find out exactly why it's doing incredibly well, what management systems do they use, how does their business structure work for that, what environment are they in, what's the culture the company has, and then how does it affect the customer, and how does it, like, what's their attrition. I look at a lot of stuff to figure out how to make the best outcome. And then I go to companies that are struggling and or wanting to progress faster than they have, or want multiple locations, whatever their need is. Then I help them understand how these particular options work, and then how to teach what's the real cost on getting these things going, timelines of expectation, all that stuff. What I love is that I've seen you're already expanding, right? You're looking at the next options. With having the current client load that you have, or not the client load, the employees that you have, sorry. Now, your pay structure and all of that, you have these people on payroll, which is also another good thing.
Yeah.
So just kind of making sure I hit on all the points that we definitely wanted to make sure we worked on here. Payroll's another thing. There are companies out there. Look around. Look at the fine print. Me being a business owner, there are two major payroll companies, very big companies. I went with the one that doesn't change your rate after the first year. The other one, you need to know to ask that question. You need to ask that question, period.
Yeah.
Is this an introductory rate? Is it going to change on me? Can I rely on this being my costs using your service moving forward? There are companies that they give you like a year. It makes you comfortable. You have enough time to build a business. And then now your rate changes based off whatever their rate changes are, whatever they decide to put on their customers. The company I went with, you're there for life. As long as you don't stop using their service, you have that. That's your agreement. So you constantly, so that's a fantastic thing. Know to ask certain questions. That's part of the benefit of actually finding somebody who's already doing this business, whatever the business is. So now you've got your business has been in for 5 years. Just following again on all my points that we needed to make sure we hit. Got that already. Man, you're good at this, Joe. Man, you're a studious person.
Never done it before either, too. So
yeah. Well, see, the other skills is going to be organization and preparedness, which also lends itself to punctuality, right?
Also true.
All right. Your hardships, you really haven't experienced a whole lot of hardships. Nothing that made you guys go, no, we're not doing the business anymore.
Right.
Now, there are ways to steel yourself against that. And what I mean that is like being hard like steel, not theft. Right? So how to steel yourself against it, and that goes back to the stuff that I was talking about, the trait values. You guys, because you incubated with experience, you did a really great job offsetting the hardships that could have been the thing that made your father, before you got involved, or you both, to go, we probably shouldn't do this.
Right.
You know, so you offset that because you were skilled and your skill sets were there prior to having the profit side of it launched.
Right.
Again, but that's also because the work you guys put into it. It's not like you have special privilege.
Right.
This comes out of need. You know, it was an accidental company, right?
Yeah.
And it's themselves. So now other people are going to come from different places. I want them to understand that as they watch this video about what really is there and, you know, the trait system. So Um, Now, you guys, you work out of a home office. That's a big benefit for this. There will be a point in time where you're going to want your employees to come to a specific location where you'd have an office officially that's some sort of retail space or something.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not retail, but some place that's outside of the home. But for now, I mean, what a great cost saving. You don't even have to pay to have an office in a strip mall or something. So you don't have to start big like that. Some people think you have to do that right away, and they talk to a leasing agent. Like, no, stop. You don't need that.
Right.
Specifically for this type of business. Now, there's a really good burning question, especially with the way that politics works. We have the potential of having another lockdown. They're talking about it already. I don't align with that political party that's their hot button. But I did have to witness what happens to businesses and have my own business affected through COVID. Now, for you guys with the COVID lockdowns, is there anything specific that it taught you that made you come out of it as a more developed company from having the lockdowns?
So we didn't really face any hardships. We worked the entire time through the pandemic. It didn't affect us whatsoever in that sense of like workload that we had coming in. One thing we learned is how valuable, and I guess it almost goes without saying, but you don't really realize it till you're in it, how valuable making sure that you have a good count on your materials is, because of the cost of materials basically skyrocketed overnight. I mean, that's one thing a lot of homeowners, it's not something they think of. They don't do it every day, so it's not something that they take into account that, times change, but material goes up. The cost of material goes up. Plywood is not $10 a sheet anymore, $20 a sheet anymore. I mean, like, drywall is expensive. Anything petroleum-based went up on 25 to like 35% during COVID. So, like roofing, dude, it just skyrocketed. It's massive now just because of the cost of the material. And with that, you need to charge more for labor. You got to charge more for materials, stuff like that. So one of the biggest things that we learned, don't stop.
Mm-hmm.
Don't stop. Just because everything else does, keep going. Like, give it your all. Treat it like it never happened. COVID's a little bit different, but like, just treat it like a normal day, man. You're still working. We still had business coming in. We had to charge more because of materials, and we would explain to customers, because we don't upcharge on materials at all. Like, occasionally we will, and it's not much. And we would just tell customers, listen, materials are what materials are. There's nothing I can do to save you money. If I can, I will. One thing I learned is that I guess people were more understanding because of the hard times, not necessarily financially, but all around. Our customers were just more understanding. Like, if there were problems that arose during a job, it was just like, hey, totally get it. Like, it's got to be done. It's got to be done. Like, and that was a blessing. Like, I love that, because it's like, cool. I don't have to like push you to do this because you need to do this or your house is going to fall apart. It was just like, yeah, the framing in my wall is trash after you pulled off the drywall. Yeah, go ahead. You got to replace it. No big deal. It's kind of changed now that we're out of the whole, shutdown. People want to save money. I totally get that. And if people don't have to repair something or pay for something, they're not going to. That's across the board, not just my industry. But I do notice we get a little bit more pushback on things like that. So I would say the biggest thing we learn is to just keep going, keep pushing, don't stop, push harder. Because there were companies that, COVID happened, we can't work. It was like it's like they were looking for an excuse, and they had the best excuse ever. I looked at that as an excuse to market more, push more, get more customers, push work, man, because there were less people out there doing it. So we actually became more efficient. We were able to get to jobs faster because there's no one on the road. We were able to get in and out of Lowe's quicker because there weren't nearly as many of your weekend warriors, if you will, and they're blocking up the aisles and stuff like that. So it made us more efficient. Like, we really just had less things in our way, less things stopping us from getting done what we needed to get done.
Yeah, that's fascinating too, because it's all you have to do is adapt.
Yeah.
You adapt to it, right? So if you have to wear a mask going into somebody's home, you just put the mask on, you go do the job. If there's other precautions you need to do, well, you just take those precautions. If it costs you more money, then you just put that into the cost of the job.
Right.
To a degree that's responsible and respectful, right? So it's interesting because I have to ask that question. We don't know if something like that will ever happen again. But if you're prepared for it, you're more likely to be able to continue. As you said, it didn't really hit your business hard. Some companies saw a loss of their base that they're familiar with, whether it's somebody set up on repeat costs or charges, or if it's like with yours, you guys just how many jobs you're getting and you kind of keep the metrics on it.
Right.
But if you were to reduce by 60% of that, could your business still survive? For you, you have the ability to change your what your company requires in order to function. If you got to go leaner, you go leaner, but you change that based off of how many jobs you have. It just it works for your business because that's the way it always works for your business.
Right.
If you normally get 10 jobs a month, then it cuts down for whatever reason. Something changes in the economy, you go down to 6. Well, you don't have enough jobs for your guys, so they work what they work. And then you give them whatever you can give them, but
Right.
you can't sink your company, because if your company isn't there whenever it's all done and ready to go back to regular business, whoever that employee is, they don't have a place to go. They got to find someplace else to work. So it's a sad reality, but it is a reality. Other companies like gyms, they have to know this. That's a factor that I push that very hard onto every gym that I talk to, especially when I consult with them. If this happens again, what's your base level in order for you to be able to keep the business open and keep payroll done and all utilities paid, everything's done, right? Like that needs to be done. Now, is that like with that percentage, are you able to pay yourself or not? And if you needed to pay yourself and you're not paying yourself, how much of a percentage of those people, that level of business do you need in order to pay yourself? And can you survive without paying yourself? Those are the kind of questions that I'll talk to them about. Yours is kind of answered because you just adapted and you probably used the same method, but that is the standard in the industry. The work's not there, you know, way to pay them.
We'll tweak things. Like if something like that were to ever happen, like worst case scenario, we'll use an example. If we were doing 10 jobs a month and then it went down to 5 jobs a month, we would probably just change the way that we charge customers, not negatively. It wouldn't negatively impact them. So usually what we'll do is we'll give them, like, let's say they're going to do, 1,000 square feet of flooring. They pick their flooring. Okay, this is what your material cost is. Here's what your labor cost is. We would probably just change to charging them based off of time and materials. So we would charge them probably on a weekly basis, so long they're in agreement with it and it would be fair. So we would allot to get the guys paid, have a small amount go back into the business, and still pay ourselves basically a livable weekly salary, if you will. So we really will try to adapt to if something like that ever happens again. There's no sense in going out of business because the whole world wants to shut things down if you don't have to, and we didn't have to. So yeah, I mean, we would just probably tweak it a little bit. Regardless, my guys have families and they have bills to pay. I do too, but they're a priority for me, and I look at them as family. So I would rather make sure they got paid and make $500 less a week than not have business. You know what I mean? Like, because then I can still stay in business. That means I can have more pictures. I can still market. There's still going to be word of mouth. Like, there's just so many more benefits than there are downfalls of doing something like that and adapting. So that's just an example of something that we have done before on a job, and that if it ever came to a worst case, we would do it again if we needed to.
Yeah, and it's good that you but then again, that's a skill, that's a trait value you have. Yeah. You're adaptive. Yeah. What I do like to tell people on this too is, like, I've heard my entire life that a jack of all trades is a master of none.
True.
And I'm like, well, yeah, but it's an incomplete statement. Yeah. A jack of all trades is a master of adaptation. Yeah. And if I need to pick somebody to survive with, I want that person.
Yeah.
But that's the way that I am too. I'm amazing at adapting. You're great at adapting, or amazing at adapting as well. That's all it is. You have to understand what's going on, what is being called forth for the economy for the industry you're in, and how do you navigate those challenges in order to come out still surviving versus going, we're locked down, everybody's going home, furloughed, whatever, and we'll get back to you whenever it's time. You know. Those are typically companies that are probably too comfortable, and they likely are also the ones that got the PPP loans.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, I got a bunch of free money.
Yeah.
Wasn't free, and you know, thanks for being completely responsible. Most people didn't even have to pay them back, but anyway, not to go down that grant or that rant.
Right.
So, if you could talk to your younger self, and now we're talking to Joe here, the young Joe. If you knew that young Joe was going to be running the company, from what you know right now and what you see the future look like from right now, what advice would you give to young Joe?
It'd be a talk, that's for sure. Focus, prioritize personal development. Prioritize personal development, focus, like hone in on something and run with it. Not that I didn't do that before. What else would I say?
I mean, you know the lessons you have now.
I would basically just lay it out and say, listen, like, you're going to face hard times. There's going to be days where you're ready to hang it up. There's going to be days where you sit in the car when you get home after one of the worst interactions you've had with a customer, and you just think about what you did or what went wrong, and to just push through it. Giving up isn't a solution, so don't give up. Honestly, the biggest thing, focus, prioritize personal development and self-development, and keep on. Just don't stop. If you have to beat yourself up to get up where you want to be, and you only have to beat yourself up for a little bit of time, do it. Like, there's so much more gain out of that than not. Like,
a lot like exercise.
What's that?
A lot like exercise.
Yeah. So I would tell myself to treat it like chest day at the gym. Give it your all. Don't stop. And when you think you're done, you're not done. You're just lying to yourself. Because like in any business, and especially my industry, dude, it's here. It's all here. Like, if you can beat this, you're good.
Yeah.
That's it. It's all a mind game. So tell myself to focus, really, really prioritize personal development. Because if you can't develop yourself, you're never going to be able to help and assist develop others. And that's what you're going to need if you have a team.
Yeah.
And don't give up, man. Just don't. Whatever you do. If you got to stay up late, dude, there's days where I'm up till midnight doing invoices, or I'm reaching out to customers, or I'm thinking of different ways to tweak our marketing. And yeah, in the morning, are there times where I'm like, oh, I stayed up late. Oh. But then 2 days later, when I have 30 people hit me up to come give them a quote, I'm just like, dude, I lost 2 hours, 3 hours of sleep, and I just got, $100,000 in potential business. I'm good. I'll take it any day.
Yeah. That's a fantastic and great advice, by the way, because if you had to talk to you and aunt somebody passed, right, and you knew that was going to be an emotional distraction, it was going to be a hardship to deal with, and how that could interfere with work, or with the company, and or even for your employees, you could give yourself that advice, but that's solid, man. It's like, look, you know you and your traits, you and how you are. Beat yourself up, grind a little bit more, go. Don't beat yourself up with doubt. Beat yourself up with something that builds you.
Right.
And work your ass off. That's why I use the gym part of it, is just go after it. You've got to. And you think you're done, you're not.
That ties back into what you said earlier about having a vision. Like, have a vision of where you want to be personally and for your business, and then build off of that and focus on that. That'll take you a long way.
Absolutely. Now, every company has systems. Some of them are very consistent. You know, like you go to when Blockbuster was around. Maybe it's a bad example because we're outdating some of the people that may watch this because they weren't born yet. Well, you just go to someplace, right? So let's say the difference between Walmart and Target is their systems. But the difference between them is their purchasing system. They buy typically a little higher quality products because they're not trying to get the bottom price. They're trying to get quality for your home, whatever it is you buy from them. Now, the other thing is going to be the way that they lay out the stores as a system, the way that they communicate, and their culture is also, you can't create a culture without systems. You have to have systems in place in order for a culture to work. So do you have anything that is like a secret sauce that's like your guys is kind of like, you know, the MR Renovations secret sauce system that makes you guys kind of stand out other than punctuality, even though that's not really a system punctuality, it's system support punctuality?
Yeah. Do you mean in the sense of makes us stand out to the consumer more?
Well, even if it's just enter business, so that it's only the people that are in your employ, or that you and your father and your employees, even if it's that's still a system. It's just how you guys communicate, and then the way that you structure things, how you work with your employees. If you get a new job that's coming up, you'll have a way of factoring who's going to be doing the job. That technically falls under system because you understand their skill sets, all this, but it's a short system, right? It's like, okay, call comes in, you know the job's there, you go and you bid it, and then you put this person on the job, you know the timelines it takes them to do it, you know what they need to be prepared, you know if they're punctual, you know if they do a great job. All those things fall into the outcome, and it gives you that, okay, what I'm going for here is that if that were, like, is that system capable of running without you?
Yeah, I would say. I mean, okay, so if it's going to be a job that our two full-time employees are going to be on, I know what they're capable of doing. Like, I know what their scope of work is, like what they literally know and can do, and what they cannot do. So if somebody reaches out to me and they want us to build a seawall, well, it's not a job I'm taking. Even if I know a subcontractor that does it, I'm probably just not going to take it. Like, it's not something that's in our scope of work. So, I mean, for other systems, no, not really. Like, we're either going to do a job or we're not. And if we're doing a job and it's a job that one of our subcontractors that can do, and it's something that we are familiar with, because it's like I'm the one that talks to the customer. If I'm subbing out, subcontractor's not doing it. Like, they're not talking to the customer. They're just doing the work. So I need to know what I'm talking about. And my guys, when they're there, they need to literally show that they know what they're doing when they're actually working. So there's really not any other systems in place for that type of thing where it's like, okay, flooring job, example, Tom is doing it. I don't even need to worry about it. Like, I mean, quite frankly, if your business isn't in that place, like, I'm just going to be real raw here. Like, if your business is in a place where you can't just trust your guy to do that job and you have to micromanage them, then there's one of two problems, or maybe two. You're either not leading correctly or you're hiring incorrectly. Like, you're hiring people that they sold you on the fact that they know how to do the work and that's it. You didn't take anything else into account. So, I mean, for us now, there's not really any other systems. I'm either going to take a job because I know we can do it, or I'm not.
Okay.
That's it.
And another way of looking at it too is, if you were to franchise your business right now, how would you package it? And that's how you would package it, to systems. Because when you do sell a franchise, most of what you sell is a system.
Mm-hmm.
Because you tell them everything. This is the color. Like, some of them are that far, right? They'll tell you exactly what colors and which ones you're allowed to use, how the whole place is supposed to look based off the structure, all that. How you hire and how do you vet your prospects for hiring, for employees. Like that kind of stuff would be also the system stuff that you would look into if you got to that point of franchising, if that's even something you guys wanted to do. Or if you had multiple locations and somebody else needed to run them, they need to know these systems in order to run them properly. But it's not uncommon, because you know what, the differentiators with you guys is who you are, who your father is, and the points of pride, like showing up on time and quality work. You know, those things
Right.
will make you stand out. Surprisingly enough, you don't need to have Einstein working on your behalf in order to come up with what makes you guys special. You know,
No.
no. All right, last question. Well, actually, second to last question. This one sounds like the previous question, not the systems, but prior to that, about your younger self. This one is, entrepreneur comes up to you and says, hey, I want to start working in this industry. What would you tell them in order to get started and feel confident that they could actually take that on, so they're not drinking from the fire hose, but they got enough to quench their thirst?
Tell them to figure out and think about what they're good at. So if they want to specifically get into my industry, do you have a niche in any one specific thing or a couple areas? If you do, go with that. Don't spread yourself too thin trying to do everything at once, because you're probably going to fall on your face. Like most people that get into this industry, they're good at one thing, and then over the years they build up their company, and next thing you know, they own a huge contracting company. So it's very rarely, I mean, they're doing everything and they're great at everything. So I would say find your niche, focus on that, research it, learn everything you can. I was the kind of guy when I worked in flooring, I was taking flooring samples home and literally studying them. I would take 100 to 200 little square flooring samples home with me, and I'd go on the website and I'd read everything about it. I wanted to know everything, down to what the finish is made out of, how thick it is, how they cut the wood, where it's milled, everything. So learn everything about the niche you're getting into. Get your basic tools, find the cheaper ways to get the tools if you don't have it, and start marketing. Whether you're using yourself as marketing, you're door knocking, you're asking family and friends, which is a really good way to start. Go to family and friends. If they have a project they want done, tell them, don't do it for free if you don't have to, but like charge them a little bit less and let that be free. That's basically free advertising that you're getting paid for going to family and friends. Like, you need 600 square feet of floors installed. I know how to do it. You do it. Boom. You take a picture. You just got proof of the quality of your work. You got paid for it. Now you can turn around and go on Facebook and post it for free and market. So find your niche. Don't blow yourself out of the water with overpaying for tools. Research everything, and this is not in any one specific order. Find your niche. It needs to be number one. Find what you're good at. Don't blow yourself out paying for a bunch of tools that you don't need or that are just overpriced when you can get something that's used for a third of the price. Start marketing and don't give up. Like, do whatever you need to do. Take sales trainings, go to school for it, if it's construction technology, plumbing, HVAC, electrical, welding, whatever it is. Go to school for it, learn about it, just absorb. You need to be a sponge if you want to get into an industry like this. Reach out to other contracting companies and other contractors and other flooring companies, whatever you're going to get into. Ask them questions. I mean, if you see them on a job site and you see that, like, that, it's clearly that that's the owner on the job site, dude, go pick his brain. Like, you'd be surprised. He may give you some advice that's like, I never considered that. Like, things to avoid, things that you need to do. Find your niche. Don't blow yourself out of the water on overpaying for things. Find a way to get cheap or free marketing, and then go do it. Stop thinking and start doing. You don't want ideas to go into the graveyard. You want them to become a reality and not just a vision. Your vision restarts when you start doing it, and you want your company to be somewhere, and you have a goal for that company. And then focus on that vision and do it and work towards it.
Yeah. Get in there, take your bruises, take your bumps. But that's solid advice.
Not easy.
No. But something that comes to mind is, like you said, okay, well, get the friends or family or whatever, you do a job, but you do it at a discount. Let's say you do it at 10%, whatever it would have cost market value, right? Like they actually have somebody else come in and do it 10% less. How much money would you have to pay the person you just did the job for to talk about what you did in order to get somebody else interested enough that they would get in touch with you? And that's the exchange that you're looking for. It can be a significantly cheaper version of paying significant amounts of money for a website company or an SEO company or somebody like that to push you out there or to buy a billboard. Now, I'm not saying that in order to say, okay, you need to discount your product. No, you need to become the differentiator, but in the beginning, you may not have the awareness of what makes you that much different. You just know that you want to get into that industry and break out.
Great example, just speaking of the whole 10% thing. We market on Facebook through Facebook ads and also Nextdoor. That's really the only like paid marketing that we do. And with the exception of, funny enough, our employees are almost paid marketing, because if they're wearing company T-shirts, we're paying them and they're marketing. So there are three ways of paid marketing if you want to get technical. I have a picture. I have multiple pictures. The way that my Facebook ads works is there's a picture of a kitchen, and it was a kitchen that we renovated. That picture, which on a daily basis costs us for that ad $8 a day, so $240 a month. Cost us $240 a month to have that up there. That one picture has made us $30,000.
Wow.
And people will click on that picture and then click message, and it shows the picture that they were on when they clicked message to reach out to us. And I've done the math on it, and that's made us a ton of money. Just that one picture. I'll never take that picture down, because I look at that as like, dude, it was a job that we did years ago, and I just decided to post it because it's a great example of the work that we do and the craftsmanship that we as a company offer, and it's made us 10, 20-fold, 100-fold what it cost us to advertise that picture.
Yeah. Yeah, that's something else that I would throw into the advice category for anybody too, especially in this, is take photos of your work. Just be respectful and responsible for the homes, if you're in someone's home, that you don't put anything out there that could be embarrassing or violating their trust.
Right.
But most people, when you do their shower or do something for them, they're not going to be upset that you take pictures of the work.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like, hey, just do this for quality assurance and training purposes.
I always ask my customer, I make it less about wanting it for the business and more about wanting it for the customer. So you do a job like we're doing a deck job right now. Most people would think like, yeah, just take a picture of the deck. But it's not your deck. It's your labor. It's not your deck. So I'll ask the customer like, hey, can I grab a couple pictures of this? Is that okay if I take a picture of your deck? Because it gives them a sense of self-ownership, which helps build your bond and relationship and build rapport with the customer even more than you already have. But then, they trust you more, man. Like, I don't just like snag a picture of it. I don't even care what it is, dude. It could be like two tiles we replaced. Hey, can I take a picture just so I can show this off? Show people how great your kitchen looks or how great your deck looks. Like, yeah, it's dual purpose because it gives you something to advertise and talk about and engage with your customer base and who you're advertising to. It also gives your homeowner a sense of self-ownership. Like, oh, well, yeah, that is my deck. Yeah, that's mine. Yeah, I paid for that. Like, which is good. Like, boost their ego a little bit. But then it also builds a rapport. It's like, wow, like, he could have just gone and taken a picture and done what he wanted because he did it. But no, he's coming to me first. Like, he wants my opinion. So it's really dual purpose. And I've found, like, that seems really insignificant to a lot of people that may watch this. That's fine. For me, it works. And I've noticed a change in my customers as I do those things. And it's benefited us. So I'm not going to change it.
What comes to mind about that, too, is this. If you're the homeowner and you just had something done, do you want to walk by a window and see somebody that's doing the work and they got their camera out and they're taking photos or their phone out and they're taking pictures? Like, you create the potential of a con in the sense that it's a pro versus con. That is, you left it up to the homeowner to come up with their own idea about what you're doing.
Yeah.
And some people are a little more paranoid than others or have negative, preferential thinking patterns, or you go straight to them and dispel all of it by getting them involved in it, by just saying, if you don't mind, I'll take a couple pictures of this. I'd like to take a picture of your deck, and I'd like to show this off, but you're getting permission to do it. If they say no, fine, that's understandable. It's their deck, your labor for their deck, right? They paid for it. You did the job.
Worst case, I just wait till the new Google Images pictures come out and I grab
for the deck. Yeah, you can get it then too.
I've done it before, dude. I've done it. I've had customers where we did, did some like painting on the outside of their house, and they just didn't want pictures. And you know, hey, whatever. I don't ask questions. If they say no, they say no. It's their house. It's not mine. I just did the work. And then I literally waited like 3 months until, you know, Google, the car that drives on, you know what I'm talking about, the car that drives around with Google and takes pictures. I just literally just like snip tooled it off of Google, and it's like, there you go.
Yeah. Hey, adapt, right?
You got to do what you got to do, dude. Like, I'm not letting anything stop me. I'll figure out a way. I'm not going to, you know, if they say no, like, you can't take a picture, well, I'm not the one that took the picture. Blame Google. Right?
Yeah, right. Anybody at that point, it's yeah. So, all right, Joe, we've been on for a little while. We're going to have to close up the show, but now question is, do you have any takeaways from today for yourself? Any insights that you've had that makes you go, yeah, either I want to try that, or that's good, or reinforcing, you know, something that you've already known, or, you know, any kind of insights you've gotten?
Yeah, I need to work harder.
Okay.
Yeah, I need to work
Coming
harder.
out of you, right?
Not that I don't work hard right now. I bust my ass right now, excuse my language, but I really do. Like, yeah, I have late nights. I stress myself out. I beat myself up. Honestly, quite honestly, I beat myself up almost every day. I want perfection. I don't want it for me. I want it for the customer. So it's in good interest. I'd say one thing I took away is I need to work harder and engage more than I already do with my customers, focus more on my employees than I already do, and focus on developing them. Not necessarily, you know, there's some things, one of our employees, Raphael, there's some things that he can do. I can't train him how to do that better at all, but I know that there are some things that I don't want to say he's lacking on, because everything he does is amazing work. But there are things that maybe I can make him more efficient. I could develop him a little bit more and show him how he could be more efficient. And not just specifically him, our company in general. Certain things, whether it's invoicing or, you know, purchasing materials, like there are ways that we can refine things. And look, we're a business, and we're constantly growing, as every business should be. No business should ever become complacent or stagnant in their growth, whether that's financially or just whatever the case is. So efficiency definitely is something that I think we really need to work on, and that I could take from this, and just work harder. Like, work harder. Man, I don't own a Lamborghini, but I want to one day, and if I'm going to own one, I need to work harder. So,
what I like to tell people. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, you're fine. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I'd like to tell people, you work harder, smarter.
Yes.
You know, or you work smarter, harder. Either one, they have different destinations, but at the same time, it's very similar on the outcome. You know, it's just, you know what? You don't stop working harder because you get smarter.
Right.
You add hard work into the mix so that what you become proficient at here takes you an hour to do. Now takes you 15 minutes to do. You don't have 45 minutes to relax and sit around.
Right.
You've got 45 minutes to put another task in. Put something else in. Guess what? That took an hour, but now it takes you 30 minutes. You still got 15 minutes left of that hour, but you have two major things done that would have cost you 2 hours prior, and you did it in 45 minutes.
Right.
What's next? And that's how you get to the point that you have magnified your impact, because you become so proficient. But that's working smarter, harder.
Right.
You know, so, but working smarter, harder is the top of it all. Mm-hmm. Working harder, smarter it's down there, but it's there.
Yeah,
but work
100%.
smarter, harder. You know, so it's all process and forging the diamond that you are, right? So yeah, so it didn't mean to cut you off, but I didn't want to lose that, because that's
you're fine. I was going on an ADHD rant anyway. So.
That's all right, brother. Hey, that's why I like long format, man. It's like you never know what nuggets are going to come out. But I've reached the end for myself. I've got to take care of a few things here before I start losing my ability to focus. Mainly I have to eat, and now I see why there's an entire strategy when you have these long format videos, and what do you need to do before the video starts. You know, restroom, eat, If you need caffeine, get it. You know, like try to minimize all the interruptions. So
Right.
my takeaway from this once is getting a great insight from a company that is actually profiting in construction, and not only profiting, you're looking at a growth opportunity coming up soon. So I appreciate that. The insights, you and I being friends does kind of change some of the insights to a degree because I already knew some things. But also from what I'm gaining from you and your trait values, we have a lot of very similar ones. We're genuinely nice people. We want the best for others. We prefer to analyze before attack. You know, like we want to be at a level place before we take action,
100%.
but we also want to, meaning that we're emotionally leveled. We're not doing something out of emotion. We'd rather settle it first before doing. And then the persistence, adaptability, hard work into smarter work, into smarter, harder work. You know, now work harder, smarter.
Right.
And work smarter, harder. Those directions, right? So that's some of my takeaways from this. You are the first of the interviews in this on this channel. I'm honored that you be that person, and I hope that the people that take something out of this video, what I would like is for anybody who watches the video to just comment one of their takeaways at minimum, just a takeaway they got from either one of us, who they got it from, and you know what their steps would be moving forward themselves if they're willing to put that in the comments. If nothing else, just put what they got from the video from either one of us and put who they got it from, just so we can kind of know who's landing, so it gives us a sense of satisfaction we're making a difference. So also I am going to suggest everyone subscribe to the channel. Do follow up with subscribing with the email, stuff like that. I will end up giving away some freebies when it comes to starters, like a starter pack, if you will, on what's necessary for specific industries. I won't have it for all industries right away. I've got to build this because it's not something that I've ever seen, but it is something that I know is needed. So I'd like to make that available, and it's people like you that'll help me create that just by being you and being on this channel. So thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
You guys are great. If you're in the Largo, what area do you service, by the way? Is just Largo, Seminole?
No, good question. So we'll serve the entire Pinellas County area and some parts of Hillsborough County. We won't go super deep into Hillsborough County like Tampa. We won't go to Lakeland or anything super far out. Anything in Pinellas County, we're perfectly fine with. Small jobs, big jobs, doesn't really matter. We can, we can accommodate as necessary. And then just one thing for the viewers, if any of you seem to, relate with, I'm going to talk about myself for a second. I'm not boasting or whatever, but if there's anything that you noticed in the conversation that you can relate to me, like personally, like, wow, like that's me 100%, and you've got questions, look us up on Google, give me a call, like shoot me an email, whatever it is. I'm all about spreading the love and spreading the knowledge and wealth. Like if I can help you, that's only going to help me become a better business owner and a better person. And in turn, continue to do that for others and my employees. So if you've got questions, let me know, let Chad know. And if you need any work done or you just want someone that's reliable, that's actually going to show up, then give me a call. I'd be happy to come and help you.
Yeah, and I'll add to that too. As you said, like anything that really needs to be done, just so that people that have watched the video all the way through, you also mean that if you don't do it, you'll refer for it. You'll refer them to another company if they don't contract. Just people in the industry, you can still get a quality, integrity-driven company to do the job that you may not be able to do or not want to do or that you turn down. So regardless of what it is, you're a great resource in order to just get something done when it comes to any of the renovations and construction stuff.
Indeed.
So yeah, you're here to help them as well, not just yourself. If it's out of that scope, you're gonna take care of the customer. So yeah. All right, Joe. Anything in closing?
For all of you looking to get into business, whatever the industry is, like, don't give up. You're gonna have long nights. You beat yourself up sometimes. You're gonna want to quit. Don't quit. Like, I'm somebody that I've wanted to quit so many times, and I just put my ego and pride aside, and I sucked it up, and it's worked out, and I'm happy it did. Don't give up. Give it your all and give it up. Give it 100% more than your all. Like, just go all in. Don't look back. And 5 years down the line, you're going to look back and be like, damn, I'm glad I didn't quit, man. But no, that's it. Thank you for having us on, man. Love it. We really appreciate it. I'm excited for the future of the channel and what you're going to bring to it. And yeah.
Well, Well, thank you, Joe. I appreciate that as well.
No
And with
problem.
that, I appreciate your time. I'm looking forward to watching your company grow, and looking forward to the feedback we get from anybody who's watched the video and
Definitely.
the ones that want to share. So, again, this is Top Tier Career. This is Entrepreneur, and it is MR Renovations with
Yes.
Joe. So do subscribe to the channel, share it with your friends, and share it with the people that you know this can make a difference for. You may not be doing this as far as your career path, but I'm sure there's somebody that you know does have that desire, and they would be the person that would be the perfect recipient of this video if they'd watch it through. So I suggest that. Do look for the people in your life you can help them as well, your family, friends, neighbors, whatever. So with that, thank you so much for your time, your attention. Your attention is a resource, and we use some of that today, so I appreciate you doing that. Same thing with you, Joe.
Thank
Your
you.
resources you provided for the show. Thank you so much for that. Your time, your attention, your expertise, your insights, all of that is incredibly appreciated. So,
Thank you.
all right. Well, until next time, guys, remember, subscribe and hit the bell notification so that you can be notified whenever new videos come up. And I will be providing a email direction so that you can just send me emails about, future guests and or takeaways and or if you want to start getting some of these freebies that I'll be putting together. So, all right. Till next time, guys. Have a great day.